In today's video, we're spotlighting several different types of dehydrated potato products and talking about why they should be a strong consideration in anybody's emergency food storage. We're also going to cook up some tasty recipes with these things and just have some fun with them and hopefully give you some ideas of the multiple uses these things will have. Let's get started. Alright, first up on our lineup today is dehydrated potato slices, and there's several different ways you can buy these things. Augustin Farms has these number 10 cans, and I'm sure other companies do also. I like to buy them, however, in bulk sacks when I can find them, and I package them up in my own canning jars using the vacuum sealer, and that's what we're going to use to cook our recipe today. There's a lot of different uses you can do with these things. Obviously, you can do fried potatoes with some onions and bell peppers and that kind of thing. Today, we're going to go a little bit beyond that, though, and make some scalloped potatoes, what I call grid down scalloped potatoes. We're going to make them out of some powdered ingredients and our dehydrated potatoes. And it's a very tasty dish, and it comes together really well using these dehydrated slices. First thing we're going to do is add some oil to the pan. Now, if we were in an extreme situation where some of these types of ingredients like this weren't available, you could make do without it. But since I do store that in my emergency food storage, I'm going to use it in today's recipe. And I'm just going to put enough of these in the pan. I'm not going to use any specific measurements here. We're just going to throw them in there, and I think that'll be a pretty good batch for a couple of meals. I'm not using any specific measurements. You can just kind of go by feel and eyeball this, and it'll come together just fine. Now we'll turn the heat on, we'll let that water get hot and get those potatoes rehydrating, and we'll start making up our sauce. Alright, we're about 5 minutes in, and the potatoes are rehydrating, but you can see we're starting to get where we need a little bit more liquid in there because they're not fully rehydrated yet. So I'm just going to add a little bit more water. Again, this is just kind of an eyeball recipe. It's not that hard to do. This is going to cook in the oven for a little bit also when we finish. So go ahead and give yourself plenty of liquid. Now what I'm going to do is start making up our sauce. Some of you might have cheese powder around. If you have something like that, great. I found what works pretty well is using milk. And in this case, since we're making grid down scalloped potatoes, I'm going to use some powdered milk, which I also keep stored in the same fashion in the sealed up jars. And again, this doesn't have to be anything real scientific. We're just going to eyeball this by putting some milk powder in there. Kind of give that a little stir. I still have some butter powder left over in our resealable pouch. You may have seen the video we did about Augustin Farms resealable food pouches. This is where it's real handy because you can just pull this product out and use it as needed. And believe me, this butter powder in this is going to make a delicious sauce that you would think is going to rival any good restaurant that you've been to. We talk all the time about growing your own herbs and things in your backyard, and this is one of those times where I really enjoy having some fresh thyme and different things that we can throw in the pot. And I think I'll go ahead and put a little green onion in there as well. Alright, I'm going to add our fresh herbs that we just picked out of the garden to that dish. I like to use a little bit of garlic powder, and if you notice, everything that I'm doing here is dry powder, long-term storage type ingredients. Fresh garlic would be delicious in this, but I always talk on the channel about storing up seasonings, different things like this, because it will really go a long way in making these things a lot more edible versus just kind of struggling through. I like to put a little Parmesan cheese in there. This is another product that works real well in a working pantry to a medium pantry. It's a product that we do use a lot in our cooking here. It's a dried cheese, so it's pretty shelf stable. A little pepper in there. I'm going to throw some salt in it. And now we're going to throw these in a 425 degree oven for about 20 minutes. Alright, we're about halfway through our cooking time, and what I like to do is just take a quick peek and make sure I have enough liquid in there, and it looks like I do, and we'll just let it keep on cooking. And I know there will be some that are going to say, well, in a grid down situation, you're probably not going to be using your oven and stove and all that, which is true. I can make these in the Dutch oven over coals outside. I just opted not to do that today because of the storm. that we're in the middle of. All right, next up on our dehydrated potato list are these hash browns that you can buy in these cartons at the store. I really like these things. I think this is an excellent product for emergency food storage, and like I said, these are purchased right at your local grocery store. You can order them online, etc. What you can do if you want to buy some quantity of these things, again, going back to the vacuum sealed jar, you can store them that way for longer term storage, but they'll store just like this for quite a while. Now, to do the recipe that we're getting ready to do, all I need to do is boil some water. I'm going to add it to the carton, to the line that's inside there, and we'll let those things rehydrate and we'll start assembling the dish. All right, we're having a little bit of fun with this dish. This isn't exactly grid down cooking, but we're going to make potato cup and egg breakfast meals or whatever time meal that you want. Dehydrated hash browns are rehydrated. We're just going to dump them in this bowl. And like I said, this is a great product. You could do so many things with those. Obviously, we could go ahead and fry those up and make some standard hash browns. I'm going to put 2 egg whites into that. I'm going to put some butter in here. Obviously, that could be omitted if we were in a serious situation. I'm just going to mix this all up. And now I'm going to spray our little ramekins here with some oil. I'll start out with about 1/2 cup of these per pot. I'm just guessing on that amount, but again, we can eyeball things, we can adjust. Now I'm going to get in there and just start forming these things around our cups. Okay, we've got our cups formed with our potatoes. I'm going to stick them into a 475 degree oven for about 10 minutes or so. All right, we browned up our potato cups a little bit, and now I'm going to add just a little stir fry that I made with some, you guessed it, Spam. And I had a little bit of open spinach in the freezer. The idea behind this part of the video is just the different things you can do with your emergency food storage and have good food. Not everything is a scenario where we're going to be out, you know, with our bug out bags and all this kind of stuff. Sometimes the things that you shop for now can make a big difference when you're just living in your home, but we're in some type of a cluster and maybe food shortages or the stores are out like they were in 2020, etc. I'm going to put a little cheese in here now. And then I'm just going to throw these things back in the oven just for a couple of minutes to melt that cheese. Now we're going to crack an egg and put it in each one. We'll go back into the oven for about 10 minutes. This is going to be variable depending on how you like your egg. All right, we just pulled our egg cups out of the oven. I'm going to let them cool down a little bit and we'll cut into those. Okay, there's our egg potato cups and our scalloped potatoes. Now let's go on to our last dish. Last but certainly not least are the good old mashed potato dehydrated potato flakes. These products are another excellent choice for emergency food storage that can be purchased right at your local grocery store. A lot of people might notice that the best by date on these things isn't terribly long. However, that's because this product is just stored in a cardboard box. There's not even an envelope or anything else insulating this product from the outside elements. And that's really what the problem is. The dried potato flakes will last a very long time. However, we need to do something to keep them from absorbing moisture right out of the atmosphere. So once again, our vacuum sealed jars come into play. This is an excellent way to store these. I like this method a lot because I can use what I want out of the jar and then I simply go out and re-vacuum seal it and put it back on the shelf, and they can sit there for many, many years that way if necessary. This product has a lot of uses in emergency food storage. Obviously, good old mashed potatoes and gravy are delicious and can be paired with a lot of meals. I use these potato flakes as a thickener for gravies or soups and other things that you might want to thicken up a little bit. And the list goes on what you can use this product for. Our last recipe that we're going to make today is something that I like to do with these things beyond the normal uses, and that is a potato pancake. Let's get started with those. But just like before, this isn't going to be a measured recipe. I'm just going to mix up some mashed potatoes. I'm going to do them as dry as I can. Now, this recipe would be a lot easier to make if I was just using eggs in here. The potato pancake would hold together a lot better in the pan, but since we're trying to do these recipes as if we were limited in our food resources. I'm just going to do it with water, but I want to mix it very dry so that we don't just have a soupy mess in the frying pan here in a little bit. I went ahead and chopped up some more green onion out of the garden, and I've got several spices there that are just what I like. You can use whatever you want in this. Just be creative and make it your own. Now the question might come up, would a dried egg powder work in a potato pancake to help bind it together? And I've never tried it, but I don't believe it would. The ingredients that help bind things together from an egg, I think, are mostly removed from the product during the drying and powdering process. But it might be something worth trying. If anybody out there has done it, and let me know in the comment section down below if you found that to be useful. Okay, I admit cheese may not be an ingredient that we have in a grid down or emergency situation, but it sure is going to be tasty right now. All right, we're going to get our pan real hot with some cooking oil in there. I use olive oil, use whatever you have. All right, we've given these things several minutes frying. Let's take a look. And I think we can flip these over now. You don't want to rush this. Since we don't have egg in there, there's not a lot holding these things together. But our potato pancakes are done. Cool off for a minute and we'll give them a taste test and see how they came out. You would not believe how delicious those things are, and you see how easy they were to make. Hey everybody, thanks for watching today's video. I hope today's video helped show you some of the different uses and ideas that you can come up with your food storage. Dehydrated potatoes, I think, are an excellent product to include in the mix of the dried beans and rice and everything that we always talk about. And you can see the different varieties of recipes that you can do with them. The list is endless. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button down below if you appreciate the content that we put out in today's video. And as always, remember, get ready so that you and your family can succeed and thrive. And believe me, when these things are all done, you wouldn't know that you're not eating in a 5-star dining situation, but you don't want to eat. We just went down to 3 stars.